Hey guys, it's Smudge here, and tonight we're going to be looking at the UH-1H Huey. That's right, the Vietnam Warhorse. This aircraft first started seeing service in Vietnam. It's been around since the late 60s and 70s. It's still in use today with nearly every Western force in the world, and even though it's been heavily advanced, or it's had modifications over the years that have brought it up to speed, so it can still compete in the modern world. Some things still haven't changed on it. It's still quite a hands-on helicopter to fly. Unlike the Milmi 8, a module I've looked at previously, this has no autopilot. It's got no kind of stability assist controls or anything like this. It is a pure pilot's helicopter. Now what I want to do tonight is go through a startup sequence on how to start the helicopter up and get it airborne. Some flight characteristics about how to control the aircraft and what to expect when moving out of ground effect into normal flight. Then after that, I'd like to look at some cargo pickup and carrying some external loads, which is something that's just been recently added into this module. And I can tell you it's a bit of a pain in the ass to get used to, but it's also quite a lot of fun. And then after that, we'll look at some weapon employments and how to let the AI door gunners engage targets, which again is something that's been recently added. So yeah, we're going to have quite a busy night tonight. There's quite a lot to go through, so let's see if we can't get started. Now, startup sequence. First thing is close the door. Right. Now up here, this is kind of where all of the business starts at yeah, this is where we start from. Let's just say that. So you've got the circuit breakers here. You just need to make sure that they're all in, which they should be. You've got lighting panels all around here to do with interior lights, external lights. So we'll just turn on our position lights out there, and we'll put them on to steady. So when we turn on power, at least then the ground crew will know that we're working on a helicopter. Now the first thing to do is to turn on the main generator and the inverter. That then allows power to kind of start flowing when we turn on a battery. We make sure that the voltmeter and essential bus are in normal, which they are. We make sure that the generator is in start, which is the up position, instead of standby generator, which is down position, and then we switch on the battery. And then as you can see, lights start lighting up on a dash and everything's kind of come to life. Now the next stage is to turn on the chip detector. You can either switch that to XMSN, which I believe is to do with a gearbox, or tail rotor. And what that does, if there's any excess metal chips coming from the gearbox or anything like that, it gives you a master caution saying that there might be some kind of servicing issue. You turn on the force trim, which allows you to trim the aircraft, and the hydraulic controls, two very important switches. Over here you've got things to do with the transponder, so people know where you are. Just switch those to normal and then you select the relevant code. Turn on the IFF and radio power switches. You've got the fuel master switch, switch that to on, and then the governor to on. And then you can just reset the master caution there. And that's the helicopter almost ready to go. The only thing that we need to do now is turn the throttle up so we can just, oops, I hate it when it does that. It seems to do that far too often. That's mouse control clicking in when I move the mouse wheel. There we go, turn that off, and then we'll just recenter here. Yep, there we go. So okay, so then we'll just turn up the throttle. You can use that with the mouse, or you can use insert and sorry, page up and page down. There we go, in order to turn the throttle up. And notice we need to turn that up to max. And then the next thing to do is to actually hit the igniter, which is only done by holding down the home key. Now there's certain things that you need to be aware of when holding down the home key. Now this is the engine RPM gauge, and it's very important. When you're holding down the home key or the engine igniter, this will start turning up, and as this starts going, the rotor blades will start turning. Now you need to keep the igniters held down until it gets over 40. Okay, so 40% on on the engine RPM there. If you let go of it before it gets to 40, then the igniters will stop and the engine will stop. It'll just die. So yes, so what we'll do here is just start holding down the igniters, and then you'll hear kind of clicking and the engine will come to life and the blades will start turning. So here we go. Yep, so the needle's starting to go up there, and if we look external, as you can see, a nice little flame from the exhaust there as the engine's kicking into life and the blades start turning. Yep, so if you fancy a barbecue, now's the time. If we look in here, we should just be getting above 40 now, so we'll let go of the starter, and then the barbecue should stop. There we go. As you can see, the aircraft's rocking quite heavily here as the torque from the blades starts spinning up. Now, as you can see, the Christmas tree here has gone dead. So what you can do is hold down this is to test the master caution, and then if the master caution does come on, you can just flick that up into reset. So that is the helicopter started. There's one last thing to do, which is to turn on the radar altimeter, and that's just on this switch here. This is the radar altimeter here. In order to actually bring it to life, you need to set the low bug and the high bug. So as you can see, the low bug there is just set to 0 feet. Now what I like to do is set the low bug to about 10 feet, which is actually about there, and then the high bug to about 30 feet, which should be about there. Now that's important for ground lifting, because in order to actually pick up cargo, you need to be flying above 10 feet and not above 30 feet. And also when you are carrying the external load, the load hangs about 30 feet below the helicopter, so you just need to, it's a good little alarm there, as you'll see a light will come on to tell you that you're too low or too high when picking up, and then you can also keep an eye on your altitude when you're carrying a load. Now the stick, as you can see here, it starts in quite a random position. It starts in kind of like a full forward flight position, not in a hover position. So if I was to start powering up now, and I just need to be very careful in doing this, so I'm just pulling up on the cyclic stick here, the helicopter will naturally want to start moving forward and right, which is not a good thing. So what I want to do is just to pull the stick back to about there, and then that should be about neutral, especially on kind of like the roll. Maybe slightly forward on the pitch. So as I start pulling up on the collective here, the helicopter shouldn't roll, but it might start pitching forward. So I just need to be careful on that. As I'm pulling up the collective slowly here, I start putting in rudder input to stop the aircraft from yawing. And I'll just slowly bring that up, slowly, and then just start controlling the helicopter as she starts lifting off the ground there, just to make sure that she's not going to tip over. As you can see, she is moving forward slightly there, because I was pitched slightly forward, so it's better to be slightly pitched forward than slightly pitched back, because then you won't strike the tail into the ground as you start increasing in power. And then what we'll do here is that we'll just balance out the trims here, just so that the helicopter will kind of hover naturally on its own, or it won't deviate too much from the flight path. That's what I'm doing here. And all the time I'm just controlling the actual yaw with the rudder pedals, because if I was to center the rudder pedals, because of the torque of the rotor, the helicopter will naturally want to start rotating to the right. So you just control that by pushing the pedals to the left. But again, everything that you do in the helicopter, every control movement that you make, it does have an effect on everything else. So you're constantly moving the stick, you're constantly moving the rudder pedals in order to keep the helicopter flying where you want to. Now when it comes to hovering, it is a bit tricky with this, because like I said, every movement that you make, whether it's putting in more collective or moving the stick or the rudders, it has a knock-on effect on everything else. So it is a fully hands-on type of helicopter when it comes to trying to manage whatever you're doing. So we've kind of successfully kind of hover taxied out to the runway here, so we'll just bring her to a stop here, and then we'll land. Yeah, there we go. So we're just down. Now, on takeoff, because we're on skids, we're not on wheels, we have to kind of get into a hover first. Then as you start going forward, you don't just push forward on the stick like that, because the way that the rotor blades turn, you get a lag on one side and advance on the other side, and it causes the helicopter to roll. And as you're going forward with this, you need to pitch forward on the stick, but right as well. So that's about the position for maintaining forward flight, rather than that on the stick. So as you start advancing down the runway, you'll pitch forward initially to get the aircraft starting to move. But as she starts building up speed, you'll start pulling the stick over to the right in order to keep the helicopter under control. And then all the while, you're controlling the yaw with the pedals. And as she starts picking up speed, you'll get less effect from the pedals, so you can just start straightening out the pedals, and the helicopter will naturally fly straight. So let's go through this now. So the first thing that we're going to do is just get into a slight hovering ground effect. And what ground effect is, you might hear me refer to that a few times through the course of this video, is that when you're off the ground and you're within, I believe it's a rotor's width of the ground, the downwash off the blades, it creates a cushioning effect underneath the helicopter, and that means that you need less power in order to hover, and it's also a bit more stable. Now, hovering outside of ground effect requires much more power and also much more input on the likes of the pedals, and it becomes a bit more of a handful. So again, just pulling us up into a slight hover here, and again controlling the hover with the stick and the pedals. So just maintaining a hover here, as you can see, just trying to keep this nice and straight. As you can see, just slightly off the ground here, that's all you need. You don't need to be massively in the air. And then what we'll do, we'll just start pitching forward on the stick there initially and start pulling in more collective. And again, as we start advancing down a runway here, the helicopter will naturally want to start rolling over to the left. So we start pushing in pitch to the right and applying more forward control on the stick here. It's a bit messy because I'm not really paying attention to what I'm doing too much. And then as you can see there, we're kind of moving forward now, moving away from the runway, so we'll just trim that out with the trim button there, so the stick's going to naturally stay in that sort of position, and that's us moving down the runway. And again, just as the helicopter starts to kind of settle into its speed here, you just make minor adjustments and then just hit the trim button in order to make sure that the helicopter is just going to behave itself and not deviate too much and crash while you're not paying that much attention. So that's just kind of moving here. We're doing a good rate of knots. That's 100 knots there pretty quickly, which is almost the aircraft's top speed of 120. To order to turn, it's just kind of like an aircraft when you're flying like this. You roll using the stick, and then in order to tighten your turn, you just pull back on the stick, and then it'll start naturally turning around. And again, you can control kind of the attitude with the rudder pedals there, just to make sure that that the nose isn't going to deviate into the ground and then make you crash. And you can also tighten the turn slightly with the rudder pedals if you need to. So that's kind of how to make a max rate turn. So what we're going to do here is just come back over the runway and then start slowing down into a bit of a hover. And then we'll go see if we can pick up some cargo and head to our next objective. So again, coming over the runway here, we're nice and steady, so I'm just going to start pitching up, and as I'm pitching up, I'm putting the collective down, but not too much there. Just again, starting to bring the speed down here by pulling back on the collective, or the cyclic stick, sorry, pulling back on the cyclic, and also reducing the collective, because as the nose pitches up, she'll want to climb. But you also need to control your rate of climb with the collective while slowing down using the cyclic. So again, as you can see on the rate and climb indicator here, I'm just trying to keep that as zeroed as possible, maybe just a little bit of descent. As I'm pulling back on the collective stick, just bring our speed down there. Now, one thing you want to do as you start slowing down, you don't want to have a high rate of descent. because just like the Milne 8, you can enter your own rotor vortex, and that can cause the aircraft to stall out and then crash into the ground. So as I'm slowing down here below kind of 10 knots, again it starts centering like a hovering profile where the helicopter will naturally want to start turning to the right, so you rudder into the left there to stop that from happening. And then that's us kind of into a stable sort of controlled hover taxi here. I say stable as I'm kind of wandering all over the runway. Again, it's a bit messy, but I am trying to kind of talk rather than kind of paying full attention to kind of what's going on with the aircraft here. So right, what I'm going to do is just bring it to a stop here, again controlling the hover here, and then I'll just land, and then I'm going to talk about what we're going to do next, which is cargo pickup. So in this hardened aircraft shelter over here, I'll have some cargo waiting to be picked up and taken to its next location. So in order to actually do that, the first thing you need to do is radio the ground and say that you want to pick up some cargo. So you do that by hitting the radio button, hitting F6 for all cargo. I've got 4 cargoes here of different weights. Now you need to pay attention as to how much fuel you have on board and how much weight available you have in the aircraft ready to fly. If you try picking up cargo that's too heavy, the aircraft won't actually be able to lift it. And as you start pulling in power and starting to move forward, that cargo will act like an anchor, and then you'll just end up kind of nosing into the ground and killing yourself. So it is very important that you kind of pay attention to how much weight you are going to be lifting. And if you have external weapons like rocket pods and guns and things like that on board, that reduces the amount of cargo you can lift quite dramatically. So I know I have a fair amount of weightlifting capability available. I've got about 2,000 kilos. So I'm going to go for the heaviest cargo here, which is I've got here is a heavy machine gun ammo. And then as you can see, as I've selected that, you've got a red smoke plume come up here to say that that's the cargo that you need to lift. So if we again pull up into a hover taxi here, again just lifting off the ground here, and then we'll start heading over that way. Now in order to pick up cargo, you have, like I said earlier in the video, you have to be above 10 feet. And I believe that you can't be anything above 20 feet. Might be about 20 to 30 feet, but I found it easiest just keeping it around 10 feet in order to pick up the cargo. Now it is something it takes a lot of practice to do, so whatever you do, don't get frustrated and give up on it when you fail the first time, because I've been practicing this for a hell of a long time and I'm still rubbish at it. It takes a lot of coordination, and it takes a lot of doing in order to kind of get it naturally. You know, if you're a skilled pilot, if you know what you're doing, then of course something like this might come quite naturally, but to me, hovering and picking things up and paying attention to about 6 things at once becomes a bit of a pain. So now my tip to this first is don't go straight in for the cargo. What I'd say that the best thing to do is to try and get a stable hover going first. So get the helicopter trimmed out, you know, make sure it's going to hover straight, make minor adjustments, and then trim her out again to such a point where you know that you need very, very little input in order to actually keep the helicopter flying in one spot. So what I'm doing here is just trying to get her to hover as stable as possible, and then trimming out, letting go of the stick, seeing which way she wants to kind of wants to go after that trim adjustment, and then correcting it again, so that I know that you know, I've got it as close as I possibly can to the neutral stick position, so that she'll hover kind of fine on her own. And then once you're kind of comfortable, or you're confident that you've got that as close to where it needs to be, or that the helicopter isn't going to start wrestling you, then start moving in towards the cargo. Now, in order to pick it up, you need to hover above the cargo for 5 seconds, I believe it is. Now, in order to assist in this, there is a cargo pickup camera and I believe it's left control, left shift and C in order to bring that up. And then you've got a crosshair there, and then as we start advancing, as I'm getting closer here, I'm just starting to kind of, I really need to pay attention here as to what I'm doing in order to pick this up. So we'll just start edging closer here towards the cargo, and then you'll see it come up on the camera. And what I want to do is just start arresting my forward rate of climb, so that we're hovering over the cargo here. Now I'm just a bit too high again, I'm over 20 feet, so I'll bring that below 20 feet, and then it'll say that we're hovering over the cargo, and then after 5 seconds, there we go, cargo's hooked. So I'll switch off that. Again, I'm going to pull in collective here as much as I can in order to get us above 30 feet. Oh, there we go. So she's struggling there in order to kind of lift it. It is quite heavy. It's 1,000 kilos thereabouts of cargo. And then we'll start pulling away from that. Now, as I'm advancing here, again, I need to kind of start trimming her out so that she wants to actually fly, and she's fighting me. And also, because the aircraft is swinging slightly, it's causing the cargo beneath me to swing. And because the cargo's swinging, that's pulling the helicopter all over the sky, because it is a heavy weight. So you kind of need to be very gentle with how you maneuver the aircraft while that cargo's hanging underneath. So I'm just picking up speed here again. And as you start kind of getting a nice stable flight, get it under control, then you kind of don't need to think so much about the cargo that's underneath there, because it'll just naturally hang and it'll drag in the slipstream created, and it just would cause many problems. But as you start slowing down again, as you start getting down below kind of 30 knots, then any sort of movement that you make, it becomes extremely exaggerated by that weight hanging 30 feet below the helicopter. So if we just go external here, as you can see, it's kind of hanging there. It's behaving itself. It's not swinging about too much. But if I start rolling the helicopter, it'll cause that to swing. And then again, as it starts swinging, it creates a pendulum effect in the helicopter, which that creates kind of uncontrolled roll, which you then need to fight in order to regain full control of the helicopter. So it is fully realistic in that respect. Just by picking up the cargo, it has a massive effect on how the helicopter flies, and you need to be aware of that. So again, just keeping my speed here about 90 knots, and we're heading towards our next objective, which is actually a FARP, where we'll go over there, we'll drop this cargo off, and then we'll rearm with some rockets and miniguns and things like that. And then we'll head over to the training range and talk about implementing weapons, and also getting the AI gunners to shoot for you. So again, just trying to keep my flight path here as stable as possible. So again, as you start turning the aircraft, the cargo underneath you starts swinging, and then that again has an adverse effect on what the helicopter starts doing. It will start kind of turning away from you. So again, I can just see the FARP on the distance there. I don't know if that will show up on YouTube, but it's about to get awfully a lot bigger. So again, because we're carrying this extra cargo, we are pulling quite a bit of extra power. But this helicopter can handle it. It is very good at cargo lifting. So there's the FARP there. So I want to start again bringing us down to a stop. Now, as I start stopping, it is going to cause the cargo to start swinging forwards. As you can see there, it is starting to pendulum, and that'll have an effect on the pitch of the aircraft. So as that goes forward and then comes back, it will start causing the nose to pitch up and down. So you just need to be very aware of what's going on with the cargo underneath you, and be aware of how that's going to have an effect on the helicopter itself. So I'm just bringing the aircraft down here and slowing down over the FARP, and then I don't want to get below 30 feet because that's when the cargo is going to strike the ground. So again, I'm just bringing myself down here and slowing down at the same time, and I'm just orbiting so that I can keep a forward momentum. There we go, she's starting to squat on me a lot here, so I need to apply more power and start pitching forward again. There I started, oops, got to be very careful here. Again, the extra weight of the cargo there and the fact that I was descending too quickly as I came below 20 knots, it caused the helicopter to enter its own rotor vortex, which then caused an uncontrolled descent. And when you get an uncontrolled descent, when the aircraft starts descending too quickly in its own rotor vortex, the only way out of it is just to pitch forward. And then that brings the speed back up, and then allows you to then gain control of the aircraft again. So again, just bringing power, because it is quite a heavy lump of cargo I've got underneath here. And again, I can bring up the cargo camera there if need be. So I'm just, again, trying to control my rate of descent here, and also trying to keep as close to a hover as I can, but I don't want to descend too quickly, otherwise she may enter that rotor vortex. And I'm just slowly bringing myself down here, but that cargo is pendulating underneath me, and it is causing a hell of a rotation on the helicopter, and causing it to pitch a bit wildly, so I'm trying to counter that at the same time. And again, coming down here, which is rolling, I need to try and control that as well. Again, that's just the cargo underneath me kind of manhandling me all over the place. Again, I'll just try and bring this down on the ground, and then I'm just going to unhook that there. As you can see, that's hit the ground. And as we've just been shed of a ton of weight there, it's the helicopter's then skyrocketed upwards. But you know, that's kind of the ammo successfully delivered. It might have had a bit of a bump there on the way down, but you know, hell, I'm sure that the supply is packed it all properly. So what we'll do is that we'll just bring this around here, and then we'll land on one of these pads, and then we'll rearm the helicopter. And again, just rotating down here in order to bring us into line with pad 1. Oops. And again, pitching up here just to bring ourselves to a gentle stop. And again, as I'm coming in here, I just want to keep an eye on my rate of descent and my speed. Don't want to descend too quickly. I just want to maintain my pitch here. And then we'll just bring it down here. Not quite on the centre of the H, but it's fairly close. There we go. So I'd say that's a successful landing. You know, any landing you can walk away from is a good one, as they say. So what we'll do here is that we'll just radio the ground crew. Because we've given them ammo, they should be able to rearm us. So we'll just go contact ground crew, rearm and refuel. This brings up the rearm and refueling screen here. And then we'll load up our mini gunners, or door gunners with mini guns, because you can, and why not. We'll load up 19 2.75 inch high explosive rockets, because you can. And then we'll also load up the forward mounted miniguns there as well. Now, as you can see, our total weight and our maximum weight, our total weight's just a little bit above our maximum threshold, but we should be able to maintain that. You know, the fuel's, yeah, it's a little low, but we don't really need any more than that for what we're doing here. So we'll just contact the ground crew here and ask them to rearm the aircraft. They've got off or safe, they've got ready, and then they've got fire. So it's kind of, yeah, off means that they won't do anything. Then you've got ready, which means that they'll track targets but they won't actually engage. And then you've got fire at will, which means that as soon as they see an enemy, that they'll kick the crap out of it. And as you can see, as I tell my co-pilot here to prepare to engage, he'll bring down his gun sight. And then when you tell him to disengage, the gun sight will go up there. So that's just to let you know about what's kind of going on with them. And then we'll just close up the door gunners here to make sure they're not going to engage. And we'll close it up. So what we'll do here is that we'll take off, we'll fly over towards the target area. We'll talk about employment of weapons from this seat, and in the Ford miniguns and the rockets. And then we'll talk about letting the AI engage. So the weapon armament switches, they're down in this part of the console here. You've got, this is the minigun and rocket selector. Down is for rockets and the middle is for miniguns, I believe, or is it the other way around? Yeah, it's the other way around. So that's, middle is for rockets and down is for miniguns. As you've got 2.75 down in the middle, which is rockets, 7.62, which is the miniguns. You've got the left and right gun selector here. That's for selecting which one of these guns you wish to fire. And then you've got the master arm there, which is in safe, off, and then armed. So upwards is armed, which means that she's ready to go. Safe, you get a green light, and then off means that the weapons are switched off entirely. So we'll turn it up and arm that. And then you've got a rocket pair selector here, so whether it fires 1 pair, 2 pairs, 3 pairs, 4 pairs, and so forth, you know, until you fire all of the rockets at once, which might be a little fun. So we'll leave that in that, and then we'll fire all of the rockets at once, because we can, why not? And there's the rocket release reset. So yes, that then kind of reprograms in the counter. Over here also you've got flares on the back of the helicopter, and then you can program in the amount of flares there. And then when you punch out a flare, that'll then count down to say how many pairs of flares you've got remaining. So if we just have a look at the back of the helicopter, you can just see the flare launchers on the tail there. So what we'll do is that we'll get airborne again here. We'll head over towards the target area and we'll see if we can't engage some targets. Now, one last thing I want to do is talk about our gun sight, which is here. Now, the first thing that you want to do is actually turn it on, which is by this switch, which is hidden behind the cover here. Now, you can only really access that while it's in the up position. If you click this, it comes down into the down position. As you can see, you can't really get to it. So the first thing that you want to do while it's in the up position is switch it on. And then when it comes down, then you've got the floating gun sight here. And then you can also adjust its elevation here in order to kind of account for where your rockets and guns and things like that are going to land. So we'll keep that there. For the life of me though, I can't remember what you need to dial in for the different rockets and miniguns, so we'll just keep that centered and then we'll go from there. And again, if you find this is getting in your way, just click the little switch down and that'll fold up, and then you can have your unobstructed view forward. So again, we'll just push in a bit of rudder pedal here ready for the lift. We'll bring up the collective, and then we'll start lifting ourselves off the ground. And again, using quite a bit of power here in order to get airborne, because with the miniguns and the rockets armed, the aircraft is incredibly heavy. And then we'll start heading over towards the target area now. Again, gradually building up speed, and as you start building up speed, the aircraft will naturally start wanting to lift as it's getting more air passing over rotor blades. So just start bringing the rudder pedals to neutral, and then again controlling your forward momentum and roll with the collective, or not collective, cyclic stick. Keep getting those mixed up, don't know why. So here we go, and we're advancing nice and easily over towards our target area. And the first thing I want to do on the first pass is employ the rockets, so we'll just make sure that's set to 7.62, not 7.62, 2.75. We'll bring down the aiming reticle. Now we'll start flying in towards the target area here and prepare to make a rocket engagement. And as we go external here, as you can see, we've got the 2 rocket pods underneath there with 19 2.75-inch high explosive rockets, which should do a fair amount of damage, you know, especially against soft targets. So here we go. And again, that's just my target airfield just in front there. I'm just trimming out the aircraft as we're approaching here, just to make sure that she is flying nice and stable and nice and straight. So if I do need to make any corrections in order to bring the crosshair on target, I don't need to start throwing the aircraft about too much. Just getting comfortable here. And we'll start ingressing in on target. And again, this is quite a lovely aircraft to fly. You know, it is quite forgiving. You know, as long as you're careful with the inputs on the controls. You know, I'm going to go -17 is about there. That should be about a rocket's aim point. So again, coming in on targets here. Just making sure that the aircraft's flying nice and steady. Got good speed on here. And just again trimming out there just with the trim button. And start bringing the target pointer up onto the target stat. Oops, getting a lot of slowdown here, I don't know why. Oops. And a lot of those went long. But that's how you employ rockets. And that's 19 times 2, whatever that is, my maths is horrible, rockets that just all miss the target, so that's fantastic. And then what we'll do is that we'll just switch the weapon selector back into 7.62, which will arm up the miniguns. Now, one thing to note with the miniguns is that they do need to spin up before they fire, so you do get a little bit of a delay between pulling the trigger or pressing the weapon's firing button, and you get, you know, the 4,000 rounds a minute or whatever it is flying towards the thing that you want to kill. So we'll just turn around here, bring ourselves back on target. Just adjust the sight back to 0 here. Again, got a bit of a run straight down the middle of some targets here, so we'll just line up the gun sight. And then give them a good old spray. And again, don't know what the hell is going on with my computer tonight, but getting a lot of choppiness and a lot of slowdown. So there we go. We absolutely slaughtered those trucks with the old miniguns there. Again, sorry about the choppiness with this. I don't know what's causing that to happen. Something must be kicking off like antivirus in the background there, which is not very good. Now, also another thing to go over, you can actually control other positions in this helicopter. You can control the door gunners and the weapons commander there, or the co-pilot. So as we start circling around here, if I actually press the second seat, now I'm still in control here. I'm still kind of controlling how the aircraft's flying. But if I bring down the gun sight here, which I can't remember how to do. I believe it's actually on M, isn't it? Yep. There we go. So now the AI actually takes control of the helicopter, and then I can control this gun sight, normally with the mouse, but for some reason that doesn't want to work. In fact, if I switch off my tracker, turn on mouse control, nope. Ha! Yeah. Why is she not playing the game with me at the moment? Let's have a look. But yes, normally you can control that gun sight. I don't know why that's not working for me at the moment. Maybe I've got mouse control on, that's why. Let's have a look. Alt-C. You can actually set it to track through your track AR, but I don't like doing that. I normally like controlling it with the mouse. And as you can see, as I bring that in, the AI then takes control of the helicopter, which should mean I can control the guns. That is set to gun, so I should be able to maneuver that about, but for some reason that isn't working. I can still fire from this position. Never mind. What we'll do is that I'll go back to the door gunner, and then we'll let the AI take control. So, like I said, if we open up the doors back here, that'll allow the door gunners to take command of their guns. I can then give them controls with Control 2, Control 3 and Control 4, which then kind of brings them to life. Now, so you'll see they'll start tracking targets there. If we give them another command, Control 3 and 4, there you go. So they're starting now to engage targets of opportunity. So as we start flying in there, that's the AI controlling the gun sight there and engaging with miniguns. And he's given the troops down there some hell. not paying attention there and almost crashing into the ground, but managed to make an emergency manoeuvre there. I was seeing what the hell was going on with my gunners. Again, we'll start looping back around here and then let the door gunners engage again. So again, all I do in this position is just kind of control the aircraft, see what's going on here, and then the door gunners will start finding targets and start engaging. So there you go, that's the door gunners and the co-pilot engaging with the forward-facing manoeuvrable miniguns. And then all I need to do is control the aircraft and they'll do all the work, which is pretty cool. So you go, he's giving it some stick there. As we come around, then the co-pilot will start giving it stick with the forward-mounted machine guns as well. Now, one thing you can do as well, I might not be able to get this to work. It's for some reason it won't let me kind of take control of guns, but I can move into a gun position, and then using the mouse usually you can kind of control it and then fire it, but for some reason it won't allow me to actually steal a gun at the moment. Usually I do it through my tracker, but one of my settings must have gone a bit peak-tongue, which has caused that all to go a bit wrong. So I'll just leave that up to the AI. And that's the UH-1 Huey. You know, that's how to employ the weapon systems somewhat effectively, and also get the AI to do the job for you if you're not too confident in what's going on. Sorry I wasn't able to kind of get it to do it myself. Hello, creating a lot of hell there. So yeah, what we'll do is that we'll head back towards the FARP there, we'll land again, and then we'll call this a day. So we're just doing one more pass here, letting the door gunners do a thing. Now, one thing you will note as well, which is really cool, is that the ammo belts actually do feed. And as they start running out of ammo, you'll actually see the ammo start working its way up into the gun. Also the same with the manoeuvrable ones, which is really kind of cool. It's a really nice effect. It's a good detail that they've put into the game. So again, we'll just close up the doors here. Tell our aircraft commander to cool off. And we'll head back over to the FARP here. Again, there's not really kind of much to the Huey, you know. It is a fun helicopter to fly. It's a very kind of labour-intensive helicopter to fly. It's all hands-on. You can't just kind of set an autopilot switch and it kind of does everything for you. You know, you're constantly in control, and you know, keeping the aircraft manoeuvring and making sure that you're not flying into the ground. So if you do get distracted, or if you just, you know, kind of turn away, not pay attention to what the helicopter's doing, then it will punish you for it, you know. But she is also a very manoeuvrable helicopter, you know. You can throw her around quite a bit and she'll respond to it, you know. It's definitely not like the Mil-Me-8, where it's a bus that protests every time that you want to change direction. You know, this will let you do everything that you want to and more. You know, and she is really quite forgiving, which is really quite nice. You know, I'd definitely recommend this as a module to get in DCS. You know, it's yeah, you can get a lot of enjoyment, and as you've seen, there is quite a lot to it, and a lot of scenarios that you can, you know, kind of dream up and program, and especially with things like the cargo lifting. Suppose you could use it for, if you set the right triggers, you can use it for troop movements. You can pick up troops from one area, move them to a hostile area in a forward location, then pick them up and fly them back, as well as providing fire support with miniguns and rockets and all the other cool toys that the helicopter fires. So we've just got the FARP coming up here, so we'll start slowing down here. Again, just pulling back on the cyclic stick and controlling the rate of climb with the collective. Again, don't want to let it descend too quickly, otherwise you can enter your own rotor vortex, which can cause uncontrolled descent and then crash. So again, I've still got a bit of speed on here, so I'm just going to kind of rotate, lose some speed. Ooh, that was close. Thank God for ground effect, that's all I'll say. And again, just pitching up here, bringing it to a stop. So as you can see, that was a bit of an edgy turn, but she forgave me for it. She didn't punish me, which was awfully nice of her. And then what we'll do is that we'll just do a quick stop here, and then put her down on the old H. Again, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I hope that you may have learned something, or at least, you know, kind of had a look at this and think, yeah, you know, I want to kind of give that a try. Helicopters aren't for everybody. You know, that's it's kind of understandable, I suppose. You know, it takes a lot more to fly a helicopter than a plane sometimes. But yeah, I'd definitely kind of put this up for consideration and say, you know, give it a go. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. This is Smudge, and we'll see you next time.